Hey everyone, Henry here. In this episode we have Super Axel Dekker, the CEO and founder of Packaly.
Yes.
And Packaly does on-demand, last-mile urban delivery of your goods under 60 minutes.
Yes.
Yes.
Same
Nice.
evening, tomorrow if you want to wait a day.
Yeah. And
whenever you want it, actually.
That's pretty cool. So if I want my Lego, I can get it the same day, and it's all CO2 neutral.
Yes, if Lego starts partnering up with us, then yes, we can get that to you in an hour.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And you work with a lot of local businesses as well, yeah? But also like Bijenkorf and all these big ones.
Bijenkorf, Lush, Decathlon, quite some big retailers, but also very small Papa Mama stores that are also onboarded on the platform. And
it's done also like providing jobs to the people in the cities.
Yeah.
So it's really nice.
Yeah, for the riders it's not really a difference, just a different pickup location, but we see that with bigger retailers there's a higher volume, so it's easier and better for us to onboard them and get the machine running, so to say.
Mm-hmm. And it's really nice in comparison also to the like 10-minute deliveries. You don't need to like really push the people to...
I ordered a couple times with a 10 minutes delivery, and some people were like really putting it to the edge to reach me on time. Yeah, which is quite an unsafe situation.
No, definitely. But you do everything nice and clean. And you are currently in 125 cities?
Yeah, delivering in 125 cities.
Delivering in 125 cities.
Yeah.
And that's Netherlands?
Belgium, and we're exploring Germany slowly.
That's nice.
Just seeing how that goes and what we need to learn, what we need to improve. And Germany is a different market than the Netherlands.
How many people at the moment? How many people delivering?
It goes quite fast. I think that if you check our LinkedIn, it says 33. There's also a couple riders that put it on the LinkedIn page, but I think that we have like 22 people now in the core team and hiring 6 or 7 people now. Opening jobs quite soon again. Yeah, we just raised 2 months ago a new round, so we have some cash on the bank to move again.
You have, I think, around 3,500 drivers at the moment?
Yeah. Not all active constantly driving on the platform, but in 125 cities, I think that we have around 400 to 500 active riders constantly. And the 3,500 can just log on whenever they want and start driving.
Really cool. So basically they're their own bosses in a way.
Yeah.
Let's go back in the past. So do you have any degrees then?
Yeah. I did the IT study in the Netherlands, an MBO study, and after that I went to the Johan Cruijff University for marketing, but I also didn't finish that one because I didn't really like the school itself, and I was already full focused on my own businesses and trying to build Packaly, or build a fixed gear shop, which was one of the original companies that I started with. And I just noticed that building a business was quite difficult to combine, and then at some point just switched and started focusing only on building businesses.
Because building businesses in IT, is it something you fell in love with, or something that you already kind of were brought up with?
No, the IT study that I did finish. I got familiar with HTML, CSS, bit of JavaScript, and I thought it just was fascinating to build your own stuff, like on a computer, and make something work on a website, and just started to build websites for friends and family and people I knew. And at some point I started realizing I can actually earn some money by just making simple websites for businesses. So for instance, for my dad's insurance company, I made a new website that he's still using actually. I told him to update it because it's 10 years ago, but at some point you just start learning it, and then I've really fell in love with the passion of tech and what you can do with it. I really like it. My history is really in bike riding, so I was a cyclist for I think 12 years or something. Also one of my co-founders I know from bike riding, and that was just the main thing I was doing. So it was just biking, and at some point it switched to building businesses.
Yeah, because after the study you went interning at the bol.com.
Yeah.
But on the side you're already doing your
so I had a company called Cycling Shop at that point, and it was a very small e-commerce store for bike components. So it's quite relatable with what you guys are doing, of course. And then I saw the scale of what bol.com was doing, and that really, maybe that inspired me a little bit to really push something and try to make something big. But then you also see the comparison to a very skilled, fast-growing company compared to a startup. It's really hard to get at that level. but it really inspired me to see how bol.com went from, I think I was like number 250 of the employees, did an internship, and they were hiring so fast, they were growing so fast, and it was really cool to see that and see how that was going, and that really inspired me to just keep going on my own stuff. And then I just did that e-commerce store for a while. Then I worked at a company called Notificare, doing mobile marketing, and yeah, that also really fascinated me on what technology can actually do. And then just really took steps on building businesses and keep going on that.
During those days in that company, you started with a digital agency.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, I had actually quite some businesses if you think about it like
true.
this. So at some point I ran into I think the roommate of a friend of mine that I know from back in the days, and he said, I have an agency, I had my e-commerce store, and we said, you know what, let's combine, we work on both ideas at the same time, and let's work together. And then together with another friend we started building the agency, but at some point realized my passion was really with bikes, their passion was more with the agency part, so we split up and I focused more on the bike part. But I think that what I like more is building one thing and doing that really well, instead of having several clients where you have to build something for and then a new thing and then a new thing, which is more the agency work.
So then you split up with your friends at that point?
Yeah. Which in the beginning, of course, was a little bit hard, because we were focused on building something, and at some point we started realizing we have different things that we wanted to accomplish. But sometimes it's also just good. If it doesn't work, take the next step, do something else, and just take a rain check, so to say, to just do something else.
But then you've been working on this website selling the bike equipment and all that stuff, bike parts?
Yeah. I started that, and we were working at the same, like both of those things at the same time. And I think, and that's also why I think Musk is quite a fascinating guy, doing two things on that scale at the same time. That's crazy. I think he has 3 or 4 businesses now.
Sure.
The Neuralink thing is also a little bit of a forgotten business that he has. It's difficult. Keep your focus on one thing, or doing 2 things or 3 things. It's really difficult.
But then at some point, the Packaly has started. I've seen the blog post. It's really cool when you, on the whiteboard, you were just coming up with different ideas.
Yeah. We that's also what we just talked about. Like we had an anti-crack space for my bike store. We had bike couriers coming, hanging out on our couches, drinking beers, partying, and we were also in a place where there was student housing above our building. So if there wasn't a party at our office, there was a party in the student house above. And we were just one night just hanging out, and these guys did Deliveroo a lot. And they at some point said, like, yeah, we can also do this for parcels. And then we just grabbed the whiteboard, started writing and making some sketches, and just one thing came from another. I think I started investing a little bit more time into Packaly. At some point realized, okay, I shouldn't just do only Packaly, because I have another business with people working there as well. So after I think 6 months of building Packaly, I sold the bike shop to one of our suppliers. And I think it's still running. I think they opened a store in Barcelona. I got some pictures from our logo on the wall, and I think it's going quite well.
Still the same logo, they kept everything. Wow.
Yeah. Which was great, because I also didn't want to pull the plug, because we put quite some effort into getting a market position, and that was going quite well. But yeah, the actual selling bicycle parts business is quite a tough game. There's a lot of competitors, there's a lot of low margins products, and I don't know, at some point I just saw Packaly as a better option for building, which was also a lot of fun. I
guess that was like also the initial investment in the Packaly. So
the team, so the original founding team was Niels, Adrik and me, and I remember we got a way too expensive office, very small but way too expensive, and we just started putting our own money in, and then at some point I think a year in, we started building. At some point the other guys quit their jobs as well. We all started focusing on Packaly. I had some money from selling the other company that I could invest, and also keep my personal life in balance, pay my rent, so to say. And then at some point we found our first seed investor, a pre-seed investor at the TNW, the event. just over beers at the terrace, and they said, "Hey, we really like the idea. Let's go." And then we got 150k pre-seed investment, and we could do something.
And at how many months in the Packaly you were already at that point?
Well, I think that if I really look at when the idea was, the idea came until funding, it was 7 months, 8 months, something like that. Maybe a little bit longer even. I don't know exactly.
Okay. So at that point, did you already have some like prototypes going on? Like
yeah. We were already building. We were not live at that point yet, and I think we launched a couple of weeks after we got funded. And it was the last thing we actually really needed to just be secure towards. We signed Decathlon as our pilot client, and we signed that with actually having not a great product and just an idea that a parcel could be picked up in an hour and could be delivered by a group of riders we had in Utrecht. But we had no budgets, huge marketing budgets to really push fast after that. And that's something that also the investors that came in really had knowledge about and really helped us like go from 0 to 0.1 to take the next step. And that was the best time of the company, I think, from my experience.
And how was it getting this first big client, Decathlon, but also getting the first riders for you as well? Because like maybe in the beginning, I guess you did the driving, but then
yes. I still do the driving.
You still do the driving.
Yeah. I think it's really important to just keep doing also what you're building, to keep understanding what does the product do, how do we evolve, how do we grow. So I don't drive that much anymore, because back in the day I drove every day, and when something couldn't be delivered, we just went there and just like we made it work. But I also knew somebody at Decathlon. A friend of mine was working there. We called. I still remember I wanted to send him an email saying like, "Hey, we're building this thing. Do you want to try it out?" And I think he called me a couple hours before I wanted to press send, saying like, "Hey, I saw on your LinkedIn you're building this thing, and I think we are interested. Let's hang out and see what we can do." And then that's the great thing about that company. I think they give opportunity to businesses that are not there yet, but they understand the risks and they want to move fast. And then I think 4 months later or something, we did the first shipment, and that was great. That was really a eureka moment. Like, wow, we really actually did a shipment for a big retailer, and now the retail space is ours. And then you start going into actually scaling a business, and it's tough.
Yeah, because how was it getting the first drivers?
So we had a first backpack, and on the backpack it said, "Tap me on the shoulder if you want to work with me." Or want to be my colleague, or want to be my friend. But the whole thing just said really big, "Tap me on the shoulder," and that actually worked. Like a driver was standing there, another driver tapped on the shoulder, saying like, "Hey, what are you driving for?" And the good thing, what really made us like fast growing in Utrecht, was the word of mouth. Riders talk to each other. These guys are hanging out on the streets. When they're having a break, they find each other somewhere. They have spots in the cities where they just know, if I'm there, another person comes there as well. And that starts spreading like a wildfire. And the best thing with Decathlon was, you order something, it gets picked and packed in the store, it gets at the front desk, and you go there, it's ready. And the big thing with restaurants is, you go there, might be ready, or the pizza's not done yet and you have to wait. And we work with freelancers, so if you wait, it's going to be your own money you're waiting for, so to say, and it's going to take from your earnings. And that spread it. That made our whole thing go quite fast.
Do your drivers also have kind of different benefits then, in comparison to the food delivery or gorillas or something like that?
So what we're doing right now is we're working on building a whole program where sick leave and like that kind of stuff is also all included for freelance drivers. And this is a really hot topic, of course, with governments. Like, how are they going to treat this ZZP'ers? How does this work? We, from day one, really said, okay, it doesn't really matter what it costs. We need to make sure that the driver has what it needs to do his job well. And we don't want to make the driver a number. So, for instance, we have chat support, and within 2 minutes we directly reply to riders. For a really long time we didn't have any bot entry or something. You started the chat, you hit me or Justin or Adrik or Niels that was also doing tech support, and we were just there replying to your message as soon as possible. And when you start building the skill into the business, you could really see that these drivers were waiting longer and that kind of stuff. But we always, with every client that we have, we say our focus is making sure that the rider earns enough money that it's beneficial for them to drive, and for you to reach your customer as fast as possible. And that balance is that's tough to find.
And also, what I like about your philosophy is that you always open to collaborate with different things, like Bringley, for example, like other parties.
So me and Rajiv, he's the founder of Bringley. In the beginning, we didn't really talk that much, and we saw a little bit like, okay, maybe we're competitors, maybe that's not so good. But at some point, we started chatting more often, and when we have something, we're open to that. When they have something, we're open to that. And also, there's another competitor in the market we speak to quite often, and we're also always quite open in sharing. We're not that close. We're very transparent in what we're trying to do, and I think that that's really important these days to be transparent.
And I guess this is something, in your company culture, but I guess it's something that probably comes from you as well as a founder.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's important when there's an issue or when there's something not going as it should, and you should say something about it, that you just be transparent and tell. That's very important. And
how is it for the rest of the company culture? Because now at the moment after the COVID, you don't have an office, physical space.
Yeah.
So
no, the invite said James Watstraat, and I saw that yesterday. I was like, wait, we don't have that space anymore. You should tell those guys.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we left the office space 5 months ago. Because everybody was working from home, and there was a burn also on just the cash that we had, and not everybody was going there that often. And we now have like a hands-on meeting every Tuesday morning. We have Friday drinks, digital, and we try to do every morning a stand-up. We hang out, and we have this donut thing in Slack that just keeps inviting random people to each other. And like, we really invest our time in it, and we also say if you have a meeting, that's good, but try to also meet up with your colleagues as much as possible. And for instance, I together with 2 other guys, I'm in the sales team, and we just randomly go to places and we just work there, and that works quite well.
Delivery drivers, how are they involved within the culture as well of Packaly, being like part of this big family?
Yeah, so when we still had an office, and also especially when we had an anti-kraak office, we had it open for whoever wants to come by, whenever they want to come by. And when we started growing more and more, we started noticing that might not be the best option, because you get distracted really fast and people are just hanging out all the time, and then you can't just do your work. But we have a bit of it's not really like a cultural thing that we've written down, but there's more like a thing that is just so. When we do something, a rider can also do that. If we have an open position and a rider applies for it, we will always take that in consideration first and look at what the rider can do to get to our HQ, for instance. And that works very well. So they're not really our employees, they're not really on our payroll, but I see them as part of the team. And that's something that really works.
How's it looking, or gonna look with the international expansion as well?
Yeah, that's quite an interesting one that I'm also trying to fill in as much as possible. Now our culture is really, you just take our app, you log in, you go into the city and you start driving. But we already can see also in our data that people maybe cross at certain points, people might be hanging out together. We can already see that, for instance, there's patterns in how people are taking what parcels at what time, what pickup times are they having at the same stores, and they started to see each other at more of these places. So we were at some point, we had the idea of making hubs in every city that we are, but that's also a very expensive, different kind of fundraising strategy. But we started noticing that we don't really need that. So for instance, we have some stores where riders come and they just hang out there for a while, and they are making friends with these stores, and then they go. For instance, Lush is a very good example. In 2020, when the COVID crisis was at its peak in December, they were doing a lot of shipments, and they were just like super open to everybody. They were letting our riders in when it was cold. They got tea, they got coffee, and you started seeing this vibe going around. People really enjoyed what we were doing. The stores were happy about our delivery service, and that really started boosting our ways of working together. But yeah, I still think that it's good at some point, for instance, we throw a party for all the riders, and we just go to a location and we start really investing more in that, and I think we're not doing enough of that. But it's also quite a big group now. if we want to invite all the riders that signed up, I think that we have more than 10,000 sign-ups on the platform, or unfinished sign-ups, and if we invite all of them, you have to host quite a big party.
It's a festival at that point, yeah.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
How did you meet with the other co-founders, and like what's your relationship at the moment? And,
So
how does it work?
Niels is one of the old co-founders. He's out of the business, I think, a year ago, and I met him through a friend. And we just at some point at night at my old company said, hey, we're going to hack this thing together. We're going to do a hackathon and see how fast we can go. And he said, I'm in. And after that, I think he stuck around and started building the platform. Adrik I know from cycling. So when I was a kid, started cycling. He was there as well. And at some point, I called him saying like, hey, I'm doing this idea. What do you think? And we were biking together. He was in the bike team of my e-commerce store. And he was hooked, and so I had two guys at that point. And then Justin is a little bit of the late founder. He came in after a couple months. We were already registered and stuff. He's a growth hacker. He's our head of growth and product. And I started to convince him over coffees. I knew that he was a good growth hacker. He was a bit known for being quite a hands-on guy. So we started hitting off with coffees. At some point I told him like, hey, where are you working now? What are you getting there? Like, don't you want to work for us, get shares and be involved? And just slowly over coffee started to get him in. And yeah, now he's hooked as well. And that's a bit how we found each other, I think. Now we have a really good team. I'm really happy with these guys.
So you basically fill in each other's kind of gaps as well at the moment.
Yeah, so Niels was our technical guy, and he is a little bit, he's missed in the sense that we have a good tech team now. We have very good developers, so that's a big advantage. And Adrik is more of our financial and operations guy, and Justin is more a hacker, like the growth hacker, marketing guy that has ideas and then just pumps out some integrations on and puts something together and says, look, it works and let's go and then next. And I'm more of the investor relations. I like Notion, that kind of stuff, making documentation and protocols and that kind of stuff.
And that's a nice flow to your recent investment that was announced in March.
Yeah,
2.5 million.
Yeah,
from the Fair Tree. That's pretty good. Congratulations.
Yeah, super happy about that. Yeah.
How did that go? And where are you going to spend the money?
Well, that was quite the ride, I have to say. So we go from our pre-seed investment, where you have some documentation you have to fill in, and then you go to your seed investment. You have to do a little bit more of documentation, and I found Fair Tree already asking quite some heavy questions, so to say. But it also connected from the first meeting quite well. They knew what we were doing. They also invest in Kargaroo, the company. And yeah, then things just started happening quite fast, I think. We came to quite some good terms moved fast, and yeah, they really support what we're trying to do. They see what we're trying to achieve in the coming years, so to say.
And did you connect to them on LinkedIn or like another beer event?
I saw that they invested in Kargaroo, and I thought, hey, let's reach out to these guys, and met up with one of their managing directors of the fund, and started hitting it off quite good. Yeah.
And I guess during that period you were just shooting different investors as well in the meantime.
Yeah, we also had quite some interest from other investors towards us, and I think that we had like 6 or 7 conversations going whilst also talking to them, and at some point we took the decision to go with them because we really like their philosophy and their support. They're very hands-on, but also know when to really take a step back and let the founders do their ideation, and yeah, that really works. I'm actually really happy about the investors that we have. Yeah,
I can imagine. Plus the amount is, for the Dutch, I think, investment market is pretty good as well.
Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah, super happy about it.
Yeah, and I guess what will this investment support now as well?
International expansion, but also our focus right now is a little bit more on the Netherlands to just get sales in and get more clients onboarded and scale in volume and find the market, so to say. But we are also experimenting with where are we going to go, which countries are we going to go, what is the right steps forward, and now really we found some mechanisms that work for us, investing more budget into it, making a good sales strategy out of that, and really scale up. And then at some point also start looking into maybe a new round to even go faster. And now it's really time to go from startup to scale up.
When do you see then the Packaly in 10 years?
Every company that has retail stores is shipping from their stores, because I think that for sustainability it is perfect. I don't really understand how a parcel can go from a warehouse towards a distribution center towards a city when the product might already be in the city. And I believe that that's going to drastically change, also due to regulations, but also due to people realizing we need to start doing something to make the world more sustainable. And I hope that we're going to be, I think that we're going to be market leader in Europe on as many countries as possible. But our core focus now is really on getting the Netherlands, getting that market and grow fast.
I guess you're then competing with the lockers, the delivery lockers at this point,
that is something that I also always found very fascinating, the lockers. I think that PostNL tried it years ago, and they created these lockers, and nobody really understood what was PostNL doing with these lockers. It was a bit weird. What are these lockers doing in these cities? And now you see that it's everywhere. And I actually, a year or two ago, I saw a video on like how that's done in China, and there's just walls of lockers, only lockers. And I think that is also the future, and I would love to connect with these locker companies to see if our couriers can pick something up from the locker and then bring it away, or bring it to a locker and then somebody else takes all the lockers and brings it away. And I think that also for us the future is also in returns. Picking something up at somebody's front door, bringing it back. We, for instance, work with Samsung, and we do a repair service where we pick up a broken phone, we bring it to the service center, and we bring it back to the customer the same day. And I think that that's the future of how we need to look at smart logistics.
So you don't see it as a competition, but more kind of...
I would love to collaborate with all these local companies as much as possible, because I think you have to build a very strong network to make it sustainable. And if everybody's going to have their own logistical stream, you're going to have 12 Packaly riders of different brands driving behind each other, doing the same thing, going the same direction. And that's what you see also now with all the 10-minute grocery companies. They're everywhere. And consolidation in the market is quite important, I think, to really make it sustainable.
True. And it's going back to your culture about collaborating with everyone, basically, it's really good.
Yeah, that really changed. In the beginning we had a bit of the mindset of doing as much as possible ourselves and trying to do it ourselves and not really collaborating that much, but collaboration makes you also think in a different way and see that other people might be doing something that you haven't thought of yet a lot better, and you can learn from that and teach each other how to take a market, because the logistics market is not a tiny market, it's a huge market where there's enough opportunity for a lot of people to survive and do their stuff.
And then moving on to you as a entrepreneur, of course you do Packaly 25 hours, 8 days a week, but how do you still manage the rest of your life?
No, I try to balance that more and more. I have to say, like the last 2 years I've spent a lot more time on my company than on my girlfriend and our bunny, for instance. So I live in Utrecht together with my girlfriend and our bunny, and I have to say it's hard. It's really difficult to balance. You know exactly how it is when you are working on something. You say, I'm going to take some time off. Somebody calls you and you're like, okay, sure, I'll get that done. You know, like, I actually was at an event today, and I was talking to my old boss who was there, and he does only Monday to Friday, and if he works in the weekend, he does something that he's passionate about, what he's thinking is fun or contributes to something new. And I'm also trying to go more and more towards working during the week and taking more rest, and it's very difficult. I'm having a very hard time with that.
Is your girlfriend helping out with that as well?
Oh yeah, she's very good at telling me sometimes to just 5 o'clock and then let's have dinner and then do something else, or go to a movie, or just really zoning out. And I want to zone out as much as possible after work, but I'm just very bad at it. You're just so easy to grab your phone and read your email.
Can imagine.
Yeah.
And then what kind of hobby you planning to pick up? Is it going to be another business? Or
Well, I have to say, a couple of weeks ago, I was thinking about something like an idea that I had, and like started designing it a little bit, and then at some point I stopped everything, closed it, and thought, no, I have something else to do. I need to focus on the other business. But I bike quite often, so go for bike rides, go for running, and try to work out more and more and more. And I think that also helps me focus and helps me really focus on getting the job done. In terms of hobbies, I think a year ago I started doing like the building a model airplanes, like those kind of small things. Bought a box, and when I had it done, I was like, yeah, this is not it. Then started to read more, and I tried to read as much as possible. But designing is also something I really like. Just do some random stuff.
And a book that you would most likely give to somebody?
So currently I'm reading The Great CEO Within, which I find is a great book to just have like very hands-on material of how to run your business or how to run your life as a CEO. I read the book from Hives recently as well, and that would be something that I would give to somebody else. It's just an amazing story how Hives was built and how they were one of the first startups, scale-ups, got funded and that kind of stuff. Quite intriguing story.
And do you have a quote that you live your life by?
I like the Casey Neistat videos. I find that a fascinating guy, so I like to do more quote that he always that he has on his arm. I think just do more, work hard, but also have fun.
What kind of advice you can give to like maybe young aspiring entrepreneurs?
Be patient. I think work very hard towards your goal, but also focus on really reaching that goal. But it's gonna take time. We started off thinking that when you start a company and you have an idea and something comes on your path, you should explore that. Now within our company we work with OKRs. We set 2 to maximum 3 OKRs per department per quarter. And we started with doing 6, 7 OKRs, and that doesn't work because you have too much stuff on your plate and there's so much things going on. And I think that focus is key. If you see something is working and you want to go from A to B by selling a pineapple, first try to make sure that you sell the pineapple and then do it times 10, times 100, times 1,000 before you start focusing on something completely different.
How does the fundraising process usually go then for people who never done it before?
Yeah, so I have to say there's a lot of different stages at what kind of level you're at. So for instance with pre-seed, for us it was completely new. We got our first, and we started reaching out to all the investors in the world that you could imagine, and we started spamming them like crazy and sending like articles saying like, look, we are in this article and look what we're doing. We're building a most innovative, most insane freelance delivery platform available. And then you start realizing you have to have your metrics right. You have to know where you're going in the next 6 to 12 months, and you also have to look what investor are you looking at. Ask them a bunch of stuff as well. And one thing that I learned, for instance, is see in what year is the fund. So if you have, for instance, a 10-year fund and you're going to raise from somebody that is in his 8th year of the fund being active, chances are that they run out of quite some cash on the fund already. So getting earlier in that stage, getting earlier in the front line of that fund makes you also be able to in a year from now say, hey, we need more money, for instance. But yeah, getting your metrics right is just really important, and just start spamming these investors, and at some point it will turn around when they noticed you, and then they'll start asking you like, hey, we would love to have a chat. And that's what's happening with us now. It's changing, it's turning around, and yeah, that's just a different approach. That they're looking for 90% at your team. Who do you have in house? How do you guys collaborate with each other? So I heard some other investor that was doing like dinner at a co-founder's house to see how they were at home, and to see how do they behave with other founders in the team. And yeah, that is something that they're just looking at as much as possible. And that's also one of the only foundations you have when you just get started, right? You have your team, you have this great vibe and this idea that you're believing in, and then they just want to see, can you do it? What experience do you have? And do we believe that this person can actually make this into a success? When you get bigger, when you start doing turnover, they're going to look at the history and then going to say, did it look good? Did it not look good? And yeah, it's a whole different game. Yeah.
But also there, you're just being transparent as well with everything.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and we also ask help from our current investors for new rounds and that kind of stuff. We ask them and we say like, hey, please help us to make the right pitch deck, to make the right metrics, to make everything that you find is not going well. Please put it on paper and tell us very straightforward, because then we can work on that and improve that. For instance, our metrics for a long time were just not good. Not in the sense that our metrics were down and our volume and everything was not good, but how we were viewing it was just not good. You couldn't really have like a good performance dashboard where you could see everything that was going around, and that was something we needed to fix after the first round as soon as possible. And if you're not transparent about that, then you also cannot ask from the help from the people that put money into you to grow.
More episodes are on the channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share. And as always, TNRI out.